Hello guys, so welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be seeing Radius. So we're talking about Radius and how to authenticate devices using the Radius protocol. So one of the major use cases of this is for authentication. And have you ever wondered how probably you have users registered on Active Directory and you can be able to make sure that for anyone who accesses the router, rather than creating usernames and passwords locally, you just have to be able to set up your Radius server in such a way that your router actually, whenever a user tries to log into the router is always going to forward the request to the Radius server, and the Radius server, if the user is permitted to be able to access the router based on the setup, the Radius server is then going to respond with the permissions, whether to accept or deny that particular client who wants to access it. This actually saves a lot of time in case maybe you're trying to administer the router and you're trying to make sure that the different individuals managing the routers are actually following the best practice methods rather than creating the username and password locally on your networking devices. So that's the flow you need to understand as to how things actually do work. So from the admin PC, the user is going to forward a request to access the router, definitely obviously through SSH or whatever means, and the router is always going to get back to the Radius server. And if the Radius server authenticates, then the Radius server forwards the permissions to the router, and the router then validates this particular user from accessing the router rather than creating manually username and password, and so on and so forth. So that's a lab we are going to be doing today, and practically we are going to see how that is done for the moment. So to proceed, we are just going to set up our router for the Redis server to be able to authenticate it whenever users want to be able to access that router. So to make it happen, we'll just get into our router and then put in our IP addresses, equally set it up for SSH and equally set it up as a Radius client. So it can be set up also at the server. So we'll start from the router. I'll just go straight to it right here. And once we are in, hopefully, give it some time to boot up. So once we get to our router here, we're just going to input, we're going to set up just the single interface there. We'll go to the configuration mode. I'll just give a host name to the device. Host name, I'll just give it a name like router1 and hit enter there. And next thing is we'll put the IP, we'll enter the interface giga ethernet to host.0. We'll put in our IP address 192. And our subnet max. And we take no shutdown to bring the interface up. So that's the first step. We just need to put in our IP addresses the way they look. And the next thing that we are going to do is we're just going to set it up for it to be a Regis client. So the next thing we need to do is AAA new model. We need to do AAA new model. We hit enter. Once you do that, then the next thing we want to do is that we want to set up a Regis server group. So take AAA. That's AA stands for Accounting, Authorization, and Authentication. So that's what it actually stands for. And from here, we'll just go to Group, Servers. You can hit Tab on your keyboard, it's going to complete it. And we'll put in Radius, and I'll give it a name. And just say rat underscore, give any name of your choice, servers. But underscore, I think I'll just use all cap locks. Servers. We hit enter them. So once we do that now, you see now we're in the Radius mode here. So we need to set up the IP address of our Radius server. So we're going to set up Radius here. So this is going to be our Radius server. So I'll just input the IP address that we have there. So we'll just start by typing server private We're putting the IP address now of our radio server 192.168.1.10, and then we're also going to put in the authentication port. Old port, it functions on 1812, and accounting port, it actually functions on 1813, and then we'll have to give it a key, and the key here is any name, any password of your choice. At the level of the radio server, we are going to need this particular key to establish that particular connection between the radio server and the router, which is going to be the Radius client here. So we're going to do that right now, and we'll just put in the key. I can put a key here as test 123. You can make your key to be complex in a production environment, and hit enter here, and from here I'll hit exit. The next thing we want to do is we have set up the radio server here, and now we're trying to say AAA authentication, login default. That's for those that are permitted, they are going to be able to log in to this system, the default group, and we're putting the group RAD, the same name we gave it, servers. Make sure that the name of the server group you put there matches RAD servers, and to be able to log into this device locally. So that's what it means here. And the next thing that we're supposed to do is we're supposed to put the AAA authentication authorization exec default group as well. We'll put the RAD servers, and the login type is local. That's if they are authenticated. If authenticated. So hit enter on that as well. And with that being said, yeah, we are almost practically done already with the Radius client setup, which is our router here, which is our router 1 that we have right here. Let me take this down. Yes, which is our router 1 here. The next thing we'll have to do is we need to be able to now set the AAA authentication console. We need to do that authorization console, right? Rather. We'll set the AA authorization console, and when that is done, from here now we are already done with the Radius configs. Now we need to set up SSH, because for a device to be able to access this router, if this is our router here, for this device to be able to access this router, that means SSH has to be configured there. So for us to set up SSH on that router, what we are going to need to do, as usual, you already have a username. So create a default username on a default admin on this particular router, and that's, we'll just give a username. We'll give it the username as admin, and we'll just give it secret. We'll just give a password with privilege level 15. Privilege 15. I'll give a secret. That's our password. You can give it whatever password you choose, or just maintain the same test123. And once you do this, then the next thing you want to do, since you're trying to set up SSH, is the IP domain name. You want to set up your domain name, I can just put a tabs.local. You give your domain name, and once you put your domain name, the next thing you want to generate is your crypto key. Generate RSA. Once you encrypt the session, modulus, we'll put 1024. You can increase this depending on the processing speed of your device. I'll put 1024 there, and I'm just going to go ahead with the line VTY. We'll put 04. That's how many people can log in to this device at the same time. That's synchronous logins available, and I'll just hit enter there. So hit enter here, and the next thing we are going to do is we are just going to take now the output, that's 0 to 4. Next we need to put the transport input SSH. We are going to then put in the login, authentication, default. We're also going to put authorization, exec, default as well. So with this, we are going to exit, and that is going to be done already. So that's the SSH setup that we have just done on our router. The next thing that we're going to do here for just for debug purposes, to be able to see that what we are doing is actually working, we need to set up debug to be available. So whenever a user tries to authenticate, we can see what's happening in the background on our CLI here to actually observe what is happening. So we'll just take AAA, we'll set debug AAA radius, debug AAA, no, this one should just be debug radius. We'll just take this, and then the next one we are going to take is debug AAA authentication default. Let me see. We need to take debug AAA authentication default, and equally, yes, we need to take a authentication order. We just need to debug the authentication, and then we're equally going to debug AAA authorization. Yes, we need these three to be up. So with that being said, I'll just save what we have here, do write memory. So that's how you set up your router or your switch for Redis client, as a Redis client. So the next thing that we are going to do is we'll just head over straight to our server here. I'll just expand the screen so we can have a better view. So head over to our Redis server, and we'll just set it up for it to be the Redis client. So I'll just hit Control Alt Shift, and we are going to go ahead and set it up here. So I'll just put in the password here. So once our server comes up, what we are going to do is we'll just change the IP address here to match. And since we are just in a single network, we don't have to set any gateway and the likes of that. So to set up a Redis server, there are key things that we need. And some of those things include the NPS server. We're going to set the NPS server up, and we're equally going to set up the Windows Active Directory, because we need a computer to join the domain. And once that user joins the domain, if we have given that user access to be able to log into the router, then the user will just log into the router with their username and password, rather than creating all users locally here. So I'm just going to go to our server here. The first thing is to check our IP address that's available. So we currently have 10.10.10.10. I would rapidly change that. We'll right click, we'll go to properties. From properties, we're going to move to IPv4, and once we are here, I'll just clear this and we'll put the IP. And we're also going to put in our gateway, which is not really necessary. And for the DNS server, I'll just input here the same device. So you don't necessarily need a DNS server, neither do you need a gateway for this lab, but we'll just put that for now. I'll hit on OK. So once that is done, the next thing we need to do is we're just going to come to accept this. We'll come to manage here, and the next thing is we are going to add roles and feature. So go to next here, you click next again, and you equally take next. You take from here now, make sure you check Active Directory domain services. I'll take add features. The next thing you need is the DHCP, sorry, you need DNS. Active Directory works with DNS as well, so make sure you add that. And also make sure you check the box that says network policy and access services. So this is what is actually going to help us set the Radius server on this Windows server up. So I'm just going to check that as well, and we'll add the features, and we'll take next to install them. Just take next again, next, 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 and install. So just wait for that to be done. Once we are done with the installation, we are going to go ahead and then set up the Active Directory. So while the installation is going on, we'll go to our admin PC here, and we are equally going to set this IP address up as well. So just put in the password. So once it comes up, we'll just go to our control panel and try to change the IP address as well. So based on our lab design, we'll have 192.168.1.20. And our subnet max here is 255. I'll just put a gateway. And also, since this particular admin PC is going to join the domain that we are going to set up just now, make sure that the DNS on this device corresponds to the IP of this your Active Directory server. If not, when you want to make it join the domain, it's going to fail. So I'm going to put the IP address of that our server, which is .1.10. Hit on OK. I'm equally going to take OK here. So once we do that, we'll just set up our server. I think the installation is done. We hit close here. So once that is done, we'll come on this warning sign you find at the top here. We go to promote this server to a domain controller. So once you click that, you then need to click add a new forest, or if you have an existing domain, you can go ahead with the options you have. So I'm just going to create what we have here. We just create a domain like tabs.local, and here we take next. So just wait for it. So when it comes up, we are going to be prompted with to put in our password and confirm the password as well. So just need to wait for that. It's still loading up. So we're just going to input our sample password that we have. So from here we take next. After this, we take next again. We are just going to maintain all the defaults from now till we take install. So wait for the NetBIOS domain name to boot up. So from here, we'll just take next. Also here we are going to keep the default. We'll take next as well. Here also we'll take next. So wait for it to do the prerequisite checks, and when it's done, we are going to take install, and we are going to be done setting up our domain controller. So once we have that done, we just need to click on install and wait for the installation to be done. Once the installation is done, we are going to also restart this our domain controller. We'll be prompted to restart it, and we are going to be done with setting up our domain controller. So when it's done, we are going to be prompted for a reboot or sign out. We just click on close, and from there we expect our device to reboot. And once the restart is done, then we are going to set up our users. So once the restart is done, then you can just move ahead or just hit move ahead to our domain controller or just log into it. So once it's ready, we'll just put the password that we set and wait for the reboot to be done. So once the Active Directory server is loaded, what we need to do is we just need to create some users that we are going to use for the test purpose. So you can come to Tools. Once you're on Tools, you'll go to Active Directory Users and Computers. You click on that. When you click on that and it opens up, we're just going to we'll just come to our domain. That's our tabs.local. You go to users, you can double click into the users folder here. And once you're there, we'll just create two users. So right click and come to new and we'll go to new users. I can give the first username as Dan. For example, the user login name, we'll maintain it as Dan, and I'll just take next. So set them a password. Equally, we will set the password here as well for Dan. And since it's a lab environment, we'll just say user cannot change password. We'll take next and finish here as well. We are going to create another user. So this is Dan that we have created. We create another user again. Take new. We'll go to user. And once we are here, we can give the username as Ken. And the user logon name, we'll maintain Ken. And also we take next. And here we'll put the password. So once we are here, I'm then going to uncheck this and we're going to see user cannot change password as well. We'll take finish. So now here we have two users. We have Ken and we have Dan we have just created. So what is going to happen then is that we'll just create a group. We can right click here, you take new and you take new group. And within this group, you can just give the group as IT. So within this IT group, we're going to put some individuals here. We'll place Dan within this group, and those that are going to be within this group are those that will have access to our routers or our switches that we want them to be able to configure it. So if you're not within this group, you will not be able to access those routers. So take OK. So this is the group that has been created. I'll double click on it. And for the members, you come here to members and you can click add to add a new member. So once we are here, I'll just put in Dan and we'll just check name so that you can complete for us. Yes, and you take OK. So Dan has been included to that group, but Ken has not been included. So hit apply here and we use OK. So with that, we have just set up basic Active Directory server with a few users and a particular user group there. So minimize that. The next thing we want to do is we want to set up our Radius server. So this NPS is what we are going to use to set our Radius server up. So you come to tools again, and once you're on tools, make sure you get to where it says network policy server. It should be yes here. You click on it, network policy server. Once you click on it and it opens up, there are several things we need to do. So we need to tell this particular Radius server that, okay, these are the clients that will be coming to you for you to authenticate whether a user should be able to access their device or not. So from here, we'll set up the client and then we'll set up the connection request policy and equally the network policy as well. So I'll just shift this a bit. So the first thing you need to do is you need to right click on NPS local and then you need to make sure you register the server in Active Directory that we have just set up. So you click there and you take OK and you take OK again. The next thing is you want to go to Reduce Clients. Once you're here, you right click on Reduce Clients, you take New. Once you take New here, you can put the friendly name router 1. And once you do that, the next thing is you want to put the IP address of router 1, which was 192.168.1.1. And then you can verify it, and then you can resolve. It's going to bring you the same IP. You take OK, then you put the password. Now, this shared secret here, the same shared secret you use when you were setting up the Radius client when you're setting up the router as a Radius client, make sure you use it here as well. So I'm going to put the shared secret here. Test 1, 2, 3 that we place there. I'm equally going to use test 1, 2, 3 here as well. And make sure you're typing, there's no error here. If not, there's going to be a problem. I'll just input here as well. I'll input here. Test 1, 2, 3, and we'll take OK. But before we take OK, come to advanced and make sure that the vendor type, you can use Radius standard. But since we're using Cisco specific, I'll just click on Cisco and you'll take OK. So the client is going to be here. Now we have router 1. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to connection request policy here. So click here, you can right click and you take new. Once you're here, you can give it a name. I'll just say router 1. You can give any name of your choice here. It does not really matter. I'll just put router 1 here. You keep the default, you take next. And once you're here, you need to add some specific conditions. Since it's for request, you need to make sure that here we're going to choose client-friendly name. Since that's what we use, I'll scroll up again. Let me use this. Okay. So just look for the client-friendly name. This is it. And you take add. And here you need to make sure the name matches that particular router name and the name you gave when you were setting up that client, which is router 1. So you maintain that and you take OK. So once you do that, you go to next. Here you maintain the default, you go to next. And here you can override and we can go with the unencrypted authentication. So click next, you take no here and you move ahead, you take next as well, and here you take finish. So that's just going to be for router 1. Now this for the request, this for the connection request policies to make sure that router 1 matches the user friendly name. The next thing is we'll go to the network policies here to set it up as well. So when you come here, you right click on network policies, you go to new. Once you hit new, you can give it the name. I'll just give it router 1 for now. You can give any policy of your choice. You click next. Once you're here, you need to add a condition. So the condition we're going to add here is we're no longer going to add the client friendly name for the condition, but we'll put user group here. So this is for the network access here. So you take user groups. Where you take user groups, you click on add. And here you need to add a group that our IT group we created is what we'll put here. So I'll just start by typing I. And since the network policy server is actually directly connected to our Active Directory server here, if you just take check names, you should be able to complete it for us. So it has now pulled out the IT group. And within the IT group, we have Dan inside there. So Dan is the one we want to make to be able to access the router. So take OK. And that's the path. You take OK as well. So when you do that, you take next at the bottom here. And here, grant access. If you want to deny access, you can deny. But we'll grant access. The next option is you keep the default here. You need to also check on encrypted authentication. You go to next and you take no. So once we are here, you can play around with the idle timeout. If an administrator is logged in, how long should it take before they log out automatically and the likes of that. So you can play with the timing here if you wish to. You can also take next, and once you take next here, you need to, for the standard, we'll just remove the frame protocol. I'll remove this. And for the type PPP, for the service type, that's frame, I'll edit it. You can click on edit and you go to others. Once you're on others, you click the drop down arrow and you take login once you use it specifically for login. So you take OK. So once you take OK, the next thing you want to do is you go to vendor specific and you click add. You want to make it for Cisco devices. So once you click add, it's going to load up. You can go with all that you see here, but we'll hit the drop down arrow and we'll go with Cisco. So once we take Cisco now, we need to add a value to this here, this attribute value. You click on that and you take add. And once you're here, you take add here as well. So when you're here, you need to type in this keyword shell colon brief hyphen LVL equal to 15, like that. Shell colon brief hyphen LVL equal to 15. Make sure you put that and you hit on OK there as well. And once you do that, you take OK here too. So from here, you can now take close and you should see it here. Let me see. I think I need to edit this. Let me edit it and make sure that that is shell. Yes, it needs to be a double L. So you take OK. Yes, and you take OK as well. So when that is done, you can then click on next and then you take finish. That's going to be all for setting up your Radius server. So now to test everything up, we then need to move to just for a sample test because everything is active now. I'm going to reconnect to our router and I'll hit enter here. So first of all, exit this. So once I exit this here, you see we have been prompted for a username and we are getting the debug messages as we did setup. So I'll put the name here Dan. We expect Dan to go through because Dan is what we made to be able to access this router. We set up the password, but you see it keeps telling us timeout here. At this particular point, the problem is not at the level of our setups. You need to go back to your server here and you need to permit those two ports, the accounting and authentication ports for Radius at the level of the firewall. So I'm going to go to firewall. So you can go to advanced firewall defender. You click on that. Once it opens up, we'll go to the inbound rule and we are going to create a new rule here. You can click here where it says new rule. You click new rule. Once it opens up, we want to create a port, it's port based. So you click on port, you take next, and then here you need to input those two ports we mentioned earlier. That's 18, 12. You need to type them in. 18, 12. Put a comma, and also 18, 13 as well. So when you do that, you take on next, and here allow the connection. You take yes, and you can maintain the default here. You click on next and also can give the rule a name. We'll just say reduce access. So give the name as reduce access and you take finish. So our rule has been created. We are going to move to our router again and we'll try to do the same login to see if it actually works. So once we are here, I'm going to put in done, hit on enter, and oh, I think, let me see, hopefully so hit on done, and when you hit done, we need to put the password. And exit. Let's just wait for it to come up so we can be able to put in the username and the password. So response flow. So put in the username here as the username we'll put in Dan. Okay, we'll put the username as Dan and the password as space123. We hit enter. If all goes well, we should be logged in if everything is set right. So we'll give you some time. All right, so from here, the key step we need to do is within the rule that we're creating, we just created the reduce access. So we did everything correct, but at the point of accessing what particular protocol, we are actually supposed to choose UDP, not TCP, and maintain TCP here. That's why we jumped into that error. So you need to maintain UDP rather. So when you click on UDP on the rule and you take apply, everything should just be fine. Or click on apply and we're going to take OK. And once we go to our router again, I'm going to hit the username is done and our password is test123. We hit that and successfully we are logged into the router right now. So all these messages we are seeing here is because we permitted debugging to actually see what was happening. So I'll just hit here. From here, I can do other things as usual and check or configure things as usual. So with this being said, the next thing we want to do is since we set up SSH on this our device, we'll just go to this our computer here and we'll make it to join the domain. So it's currently up. Now I'll just go to this computer and I'll right click here where is here and I'll just click on properties. So once we click properties, we want to go to change settings. On change settings, we want to now come to change its domain. You click on change and you go to domain. Here, make sure you maintain your domain that you use. I'll put the same at tabs.local and I'll take OK. So we're going to log in here as Dan and we're equally going to log in, put in the password. So if it all goes well, remember it's going to prompt us to restart the device as well. So it says welcome to the tabs.local domain, everything is fine. You click on OK, you take OK as well, you take close, and we are going to need to restart the device. So you click on restart, and once the restart is done, we are then going to SSH into our router, and with that, hopefully everything should also be fine. So once our reboot is done, we are not going to log in now as a regular user. We'll switch the user and we want to log in as others, which is we are going to use the username of Dan and the password will maintain test123 to log in. Yeah. So now that we are logged in as Dan, we'll just open PuTTY to SSH into our router there. I'll just change the font size here so it becomes a bit clearer. So come to session. Once you log into SSH here, you make sure SSH is checked. You put in the IP address of your server, of your router. Put the IP address. You can save it. I'll just save it here like router 1 for future login if needed. So you click open. So when that comes up, you'll be prompted with this. You can take yes. And now we are prompted to log in as. We'll take done. Hit enter. And you need a password. Put test123. And successfully we are logged into the router here. If I hit on exit, and it's definitely going to want us to close the session. if I come back to, I'll put in the IP address again. Let's see the appearance. I'll put back 18. I'll take OK. I'll go to session. We'll put in the IP address of our router 1. And if we log in here, I'll just log in. Take our login here as Ken, and we'll put the password for Ken. We expect it not to go through. So it's always going to keep failing. It's going to tell us keyboard interactive authentication access denied. And the main reason for that is just simply because Ken was not placed in that particular user group. So if we go back here on this our device, on our Active Directory server, and within our IT group, this is the IT group, I'll double click on it. We'll go to members, and I'll just add Ken here. If I should add Ken, if I add Ken, if I check names, it completes it. I'll take OK, and I take apply, and I take OK here. So Ken has been added to the IT group. So if we now move back to our admin PC here, if I put Ken's password again here, test123, we expect it to go through, and that's it. We are logged in to the router again. So that's how you have many users within your organizations. You can be able to bring specific users to a particular group and assign them roles to your routers or switches, and even other networking devices available in your environment. So with that being said, you can like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to keep yourself updated for our next videos as such. And if you want to get more insights as to how to learn properly, in depth, how to set up networks and equally key security protocols as well, then you can head over to www.dobletech.com. And once you're there, you're not going to regret it. So see you guys in the next video then.